What's up, guys? So today I'm going to make just a really quick video going over how to make one of my favorite kinds of DIY fire starters. There's two kinds of fire starters I use out in the field. One is the cotton ball soaked in Vaseline. Sorry, my production assistant is loud. One's a cotton ball soaked in Vaseline, and I use that in the summer and the early fall and any time when it's not tough to make a fire. The cotton ball soaked in Vaseline works great only when you have ideal fire conditions. I've been on a string of hikes recently where it's just been wet. It's wet, it's windy, it's cold, and the cotton balls they just don't work that well. Or you need to bring like 10 of them. So this is the classic, what's called an egg crate fire starter. And I make these down in the kitchen, and I'll show you how to make them. You can also, in the same method, make basically take shredded paper coated in wax. So between these two, I've switched to the egg crate one. It makes a really good fire starter, and they're really easy to make. So let's get downstairs in the kitchen and I'll show you guys how to do it. So these fire starters consist of essentially three things. So one is a combustible substrate. So today I'm going to use shredded paper and dryer lint, which is a little gross, but it really burns well. Sorry, cat's down here. You can use sawdust, you can use anything that is combustible. I like dryer lint by itself. I'm going to try it with some paper. Paper should burn not as fast as dryer lint just because of the flames. And you need egg crates, obviously, and candles, or wax of any kind. So I'm fortunate enough to live with a female, and when you live with a female, you will accrue tons of candles that they will eventually end up not liking. So as you can see, I've repurposed them. So the first step is to cut up your wax, and then I'll show you how to get it melted, but there are other ways to do that as well. So this is how I boil my wax. It's basically a double boiler. So I'm boiling water there, and I'll set this Tupperware with the wax on top of it, and that works really well. A word to the wise here when you're doing this: don't use nice things. Don't use nice Tupperware. You're gonna get melted wax all over it, and it's just gonna stay in there, and you don't want to piss off your wife, so you cease to get free candles. I use an old crummy knife and cutting board. So don't use super nice stuff. It'll get all waxy, but I use the same stuff every time. So we'll check back in when this wax is melted. Depending on the kind of wax you have and how big the pieces are cut up. So this is not cut up in necessarily huge pieces. It could take 15-20 minutes for all to melt. So we'll check back in when it's melted, and I'll teach you the next steps. So while your wax is melting, and you can see it's starting to melt in there, go ahead and get your egg crate prepped. So first thing you want to do, and you don't want to learn this the hard way, is cut your egg crate, lengthwise, and stick the top right here. The wax will melt through the first layer of this, and it'll even melt through the second layer. So I even have a cardboard thing right here, because you don't want this melting to your granite countertops. You piss your wife off. So there's like 3 ways you can piss your wife off doing this. Once you have this set up, it's kind of what we do is layer it. So you can see I've got a little bit of dryer lint and then a little bit of paper in each one. And then we'll put the wax on, fill it up, mash it down, and then we'll layer it again. Put wax on, maybe layer it again, and then put wax on. So it's kind of a layered, tiered system, so you get kind of a nice even burn as the flame burns through. The other nice thing about these is they're pretty easy to light because you're just lighting cardboard. So once you get them started, they'll take a flame almost as good as a cotton ball, but I've found they burn a lot longer. And after we make these, I will be out in the woods and I'll do a burn test between the cotton ball and these. And in my experience, these are just denser and heavier. These will burn much longer and make it much easier to do a wet fire. So yeah, we'll check back in. The wax is looking good. We're almost ready, and then we'll start pouring these. So you can see it's just about melted there. One thing I will say about the silver candles I use is they're painted, so that paint started coming off in the wax. So I picked out some of it. I'm gonna probably just leave the little chunks in there. One thing about these fire starters, especially if you're using lint, don't inhale the fumes that come off these. You get some weird colors and some weird smells because of the stuff in your clothes. And then if you're going to throw paint on top of it, just during the initial lighting process, just be wary of that. I've also got a little pieces of wick in there from the candle. Those will burn too. So we're about ready to start, so I'm going to pour that onto here, kind of tap it down a little bit, and then add more substrate. So the lint and the paper, then add more wax, and then see where we're at, maybe add another layer, but let's get started. And this goes without saying, but it's burning hot wax, so just be careful. I'll turn the burner off. I'll also use like a towel to grab it. It's not that hot, to be honest with you. And just be careful. Pour it down in there. Right in there. That's a good first run. And then kind of take your fork, or sometimes I use a chopstick, just something that's like not nice I can just throw away. Just kind of tap them down in there. You just want to mix the wax up with that substrate, whatever you've got in there. Like that. And don't be slow, because your wax is going to start cooling the second you take it off. And for this top layer, I'm just going to use the lint, because I've got so much of it. And we'll use a little paper on the last ones. And there we go. Try and get my hand out of the shot. Like that. Mary's up there eating something. Yeah. There we go. And just pat them down. As you can see, the lint really does a good job of absorbing the wax. The ones on the end might be a little dry. So another thing you can do, I talked about the wax paper, is at this stage, instead of doing any of this, just pour this paper into here, mix it around, and put it on a wax paper sheet, and that makes really good fire starter. It doesn't burn as fast as these, but it burns a little bit better than a cotton ball, and it's really easy to make. I think these are easy, and I like how you can cut them, and you'll see after I break them up. But there it is, guys, and we'll let that dry, and we'll come back. So there's the finished product. They're all dry now. I put them in the fridge to help them out, but as you can see, it did kind of bleed through a little bit, so make sure you've got that extra layer underneath them. So yeah, I'll cut these things off, cut them up into 12 individual ones, stick them in my pack, and we'll go test them out in the woods to test this versus a cotton ball soaked in Vaseline. Alright, and granted the candles cost money at some point, but this is $0. I mean, the lint's free. I used junk mail for the paper. The egg crate carton was free. And I used probably about a third of a large candle for all the wax here. So they're pretty sweet. I mean, you can also prep 2 or 3 dozen at a time, because the whole process does take about 20-25 minutes from melting the wax down to getting everything in here. But they're good. They produce a pretty long duration flame. So let's get out and test it. Alright, so we're out here in the woods. We're going to do a cotton ball versus one of those egg crate fire starters.
Cotton ball and Vaseline.
Cotton ball and Vaseline. Obviously, the egg crate Firestarter is going to burn longer, but I just want to see how much better it is than the cotton ball, and I'll get a timer going. So, there you have it. 14 minutes, 39 seconds, which far exceeded my expectations. I knew it would be more than the cotton ball for sure. I didn't think it would go 5 times, almost 5 times longer than the cotton ball. So, inclement weather, give those things a shot.